The Tennis Gambling Podcast and the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Fantasy. Sign up with the promo code SGPN to get 50% positive bonus up to 1K. We're also brought to you by Rhythm, the leader in data-driven picks and props. Get a 70 for y'all today. Do Sports Gambling Scholarship, RATHMM. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is currently Saturday afternoon, roughly 1 p.m. Eastern Time on January 4th. I'm also with Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Time to get into two matches. It is final time in Brisbane and in Hong Kong. So we're going to preview the matchups between Lehecka and Opelka, as well as the matchup between Nishikori and Muller. So we're going to get into those matches in a second. For that, though, do want to recap what happened in the last episode for the Lock and Dog picks and for the actual semifinal matches. Starting off with the actual Lock and Dog, overall an undefeated episode. Now, it was not a sweep because one play got voided, but did win the lock. We had Opelka and Perricard under 26.5 games at minus 129. Mentioned the main reason for it. It was the fact that 26.5 is a pretty important actual number because that forces you to get into the third set. If you get two tie breaks between two great servers, it doesn't matter. As long as one guy wins both sets, you automatically land anywhere below 27. So because of that, we ended up taking it, and Opelka did the job for us as he won in straight sets. Surprisingly, not two tie breaks, though, as he ended up getting a break in the first set, but he eventually did outlast Perricard in the second set tiebreak as he won 7-4, I believe. But either way, nice win for the lock as Opelka ended up beating Perricard in 22 games, which was well under the number that we needed. Now, for the actual dog, had the over 2.5 sets in the Nishikori and Shang match at plus 125, and I'd say another disappointing chapter in the injury cycle of Shang's career. He got injured, sick, whatever you want to call it. Point is, he did retire midway through the first set. It was kind of a shame, though, too, because it looked like it was going to be a good match. I believe they were still on serve, and then Shang said, you know what, I'm out of here. And he ended up getting injured, or I should say retiring. So either way, he felt that he was not fit enough to play, and Nishikori did advance via retirement. So overall, picked up a void on the dog. Did win the lock, though. Can't complain. Once again, an undefeated episode, but not a sweep. Now, for the actual recap of the semifinal matches, we were supposed to get 4. Unfortunately, we ended up getting 2 because Dimitrov got injured and he quit in the second set against Lehecka. Mentioned before that Opelka did beat Perricard in straight sets. Muller came back from a set down against Munar. Crazy match there, as Munar was actually up a set in a break, and then he ended up blowing it as Muller got the job done as he won in 3, and then Shang ended up quitting in the middle of the first set. So pretty unfortunate. No offense to Opelka and Perricard, and no offense to Muller and Munar. That actual match turned out to be a really good one. But I feel like the top 2 matches on the card, you could argue that Opelka's up there too, but I think that Lehecka, Dimitrov, and Shang Nishikori were really just on pace to be great matches, or at least based on the actual pre-match, I'd say, prediction of how these two guys, or I should say these two players matched up in each of the actual matches, and unfortunately we got robbed of it because of injury. So either way, point is Dimitrov ended up having to forfeit his title defense as he ended up getting injured, and Shang once again struggling with fitness, and he had to quit too. But overall, the matches were interesting. It was definitely a spot where Opelka just looked very good. I feel like Perricard was used to dominating. He only had 10 aces. In fact, Opelka had more aces. So it definitely seemed like Opelka was more comfortable throughout the entire match, especially on the second serve. Opelka did win 89% of his first serve points, 84% of his first serve points. Not too much of a shock there. We know Perricard's not a great returner, but Opelka also did win 68% of his second serve points. Perricard, not so much. Perricard actually won 78% of the first serve, which is fine. Bit lower than usual for him, but he was still down 6% to Opelka. And for the second serve, I mentioned before, Opelka did win 68%. Perricard won 45%. And that was really the story of the matchup. So I thought Opelka looked better. Now, Perricard had a couple breakpoint chances early in the match, could not convert. He actually went 0 for 4 on breakpoint chances, where Opelka did go 1 for 3. Either way, though, it just seemed like Opelka was kind of in the driver's seat for most of the match. And it did seem like even though the ace count for Opelka dipped down to 3 in the second set, he still won 91% of the first serve points and 90% of the second serve points. It just seemed like he was holding more frequently and more easily, and then eventually Opelka did get the mini break, and he got the job done there in the breaker. So nice job by him. Now, Muller and Munar, once again, it was just absolute chaos because both guys are not really good at serving, but they actually served okay for a 3-set marathon, as each guy was broken twice. It was pretty even. Going through the numbers here, you ended up seeing Muller win 2% more of the first serve points, but 1% less of the second serve points. So it definitely seemed like it was going to be a war. And Munar actually did land 7% higher on the first serves. So it did seem pretty interesting based on stats post-match that Mueller got the job done. But either way, point is Mueller did outlast him in the second set, and he ended up winning the third. Munar had a good chance, I'd say, to get the job done being up a set in a break, but we know that with his overall, I'd say, struggles on his serve, it's not a shock that he gave the break back and then eventually did lose the match. But either way, point is a pretty fun overall run by Mueller. First of all, because nobody saw it coming. Second of all, because it's kind of similar to Bublik's run in Montpellier last year, because he has actually lost the first set in every match here, and then he's actually won once again, making the final. So if you actually date back to some of the actual tournaments from last year, Mueller has lost the first set in 7 straight matches, randomly, including every match here, and he's in the final, which is pretty cool. So either way, point is Mueller now has to try to continue the Cinderella run against Nishikori. Happy Nishikori's here. Very, very fun, underrated player. Of course, he never won a Grand Slam. Did end up losing to Cilic in that U.S. Open final about 10 years ago, give or take. Point is, though, he always has been a top 10 guy when healthy, and I'm happy to see him back trying to get another ATP title. We saw Cilic, speaking of him, actually winning a title last year in his comeback attempt. Hopefully, Nishikori gets the job done. No offense to Mueller, but for tennis, as just an overall storyline, I do think it's a better story if Nishikori wins, and hopefully Nishikori does get the job done, at least for a fan, for me personally, on a Sunday. Anyway, time to get into the preview of the final matches here on Sunday in Brisbane and in Hong Kong. But for that, though, do want to quickly remind you once again that you can show support for the show by liking, subscribing on YouTube, and you can also leave a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple. So if you're listening to the podcast on YouTube, either a live stream format or afterwards, or if you're listening to the podcast audio only on Spotify or Apple on SGPN Tennis Gambling Podcast, then you can also show support by once again liking, subscribing, or leaving a rating and a review. Plus, a reminder to check out the merch store, SGPN website. We have a lot of great items on the merch store. We have a lot of great tennis items as well. We have sweatshirts, t-shirts, and mugs, all high quality, and also very cheap. So I recommend getting yourself something. Different color options too, if you are looking for, once again, more variety. Plus, a reminder, you could also check out the podcast on the network, not just this one on the merch store. There's a lot of overall merch there. And you can also find the podcast on one general location, which is the SGPN app, which you can find for free on the App Store. All our picks and podcasts in one place for free. Just type in SGPN to the App Store. Plus, a reminder, it is now the 402nd episode. We still have the contest running for the 400th episode. Leave a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple, and also send me a screenshot on Twitter. You have to send a screenshot in order to actually be allowed into the competition. So once again, the winner would get a free gift card to the SGPN website. So once again, if you do want to try getting some merch, but you don't want to pay for it, here is your way in, because you can get a free gift card from me if you enter the contest. So I'll do a random drawing, but once again, I'm waiting till we get a couple more entries here. Leave a rating and a review, and send me a screenshot on Twitter, and then that way you'll be automatically entered into the contest. Anyway, time to get into the actual breakdown of the matches here on Sunday. Starting off with the matchup here between Lehecka and Opelka. So for this one, Lehecka's a favorite. He's around minus 140. You have Opelka at around plus 120. For the spread here in games, minus half a game for Lehecka. You have plus half a game for Opelka. The over-under is around 25.5 juiced or 26 flat for games. For the set spread here, Lehecka to win in straight sets is plus 175. Opelka to win in straight sets is plus 275. For the over-under in sets, you have over 2.5 sets at plus 130. Now, Opelka's also kind of a Cinderella run here, as nobody really saw it coming, but I'm happy that he's been looking sharp. We know that he was injured for a while. He was definitely a top 20 caliber guy. Then his career kind of got derailed by a year or two, and now he's back, and it seems like he's in great form after beating Djokovic and beating Pericard and also beating Arnaldi and Gomez all in straight sets. So he's not dropped a set yet in the entire event. Lehecka, though, has also been really good. He did drop a set to Nishioka. That's the only time he's dropped a set in the entire event. Did beat Dimitrov. He was up a set, though, at the time before retirement. Beat Jari 6-4, 6-4. Beat Nishioka in straight sets, and in 3 sets, and he beat Rune in the first round in straight sets. No head-to-head history. They can't really go by any, I'd say, precedent in the past. But point is, you have a guy ranked 28th in the world being favored against a guy ranked 293 Opelka, though, has been fantastic. And I know that I've kind of roasted serve bots in the past. I love betting on them because you're going to expect some breakers, but I usually roast serve bots for being pretty bad returners and for not having the best movement in the world. Opelka's actually looked pretty good, at least for his standards. Opelka is viewed as now the modern serve bot. I mean, you could argue that Raonic was around for a bit, but he kept getting injured. You get my point. Karlovic, Isner, they all retired. So Opelka is now one of the main serve bot guys besides Pericard. And Opelka's movement, and I'd say his rally tolerance was an issue over the years. But in this event, he's actually looked pretty good. And I feel like Opelka has definitely worked on actually keeping the ball in play, which has resulted in winning some matches. He was able to go into some long rounds with Djokovic, unload on the forehand, and actually win a couple big points. But I think you're looking at Lehecka, who won a title last year. He's a very solid player, and I'm happy that he's starting to blossom into the player that we thought he could be. But Lehecka, I remember, did make I believe it was the final of the next-gen finals, and he lost there to Nakashima, I believe. Point is, though, he definitely has shown that he can be a future top 15 guy in the world, and now he's in the final. So I think Lehecka should be favored, at least based on rating. And if you want to argue based on overall performance, Lehecka played less tennis than Opelka did on Saturday because he only played one set. But it was more than that, though, because it was basically a set and 4-4. So it wasn't like it was just right when the second set started. They played a pretty similar amount, especially based on time, because Opelka and Pericard ended points very quickly. I think Opelka's actually alive in this one. I think Lehecka should be favored, and I think that he's the better player. However, the problem that you run into for Lehecka is the fact that you're looking at the guys who he's played. He has not faced many, if any, great servers on tour for this event. I mean, Jari's okay. Jari's pretty streaky. Dimitrov's a pretty good server, but once again, that matchup was competitive before Dimitrov ended up retiring. And Dimitrov doesn't have the firepower that Opelka has. Well, Jari's got some firepower, not enough consistency, but that was 6-4, 6-4. Nishioka has no firepower at all. That went to a tie break and went to 3 sets. But Rune also, not the most amazing serve. He can kind of dial it up at times, but Opelka, when healthy, is easily a top 3 server on tour. Probably top 2, if we're being honest. I know based on hold percentage, Sinner's up there, but you're looking at just based on firepower for serves. Pericard's probably 1. Opelka's probably 2. And, I mean, Raonic you can throw wherever because I don't know if he actually plays anymore. But the point is, Opelka is an elite server, and I think it's going to take some time for Lehecka to adjust. Opelka, though, has been rallying pretty well for his standards. He's been serving very well, and I feel like he's definitely live to win it. Plus money, I think this matchup's closer to a coin flip for me. I think Lehecka should be favored. I'd probably have him minus 120. I think 143 is a bit high. I don't mind the over 2.5 sets at plus 130 either. I think that you're looking at a potential marathon between these guys. I think that Opelka can win the breaker. Lehecka's only gone to 1 breaker in this event, and he lost to Nishioka. And so maybe not the best tiebreak player, where Opelka's undefeated in all his breakers in this event. So that could be, I'd say, a path to victory for Opelka, maybe a couple tie breaks, because Lehecka is 0-1 in that same tiebreak type of, I'd say his tiebreaker record is not good in this event. So compared to Opelka, he might be at a disadvantage. But I think that for the value, I think it's on Opelka. I think he can get the job done here based on his current form. You beat Joker and Pericard in straight sets, you're live against anybody, as far as I'm concerned. And I think the price is too big. Lehecka, if he wins, would I be shocked? No. I think that he's a solid player. But I think that if Opelka can beat Djokovic as a 10-1 dog and Pericard as a dog, I think the price might be a bit off. So for value, I'll go with Opelka on the money line to get the job done. Anyway, moving on to the next matchup. Before that, though, I want to remind you once again that we are brought to you by Nordic Fantasy because they have a lot of items in their pick menu. They have a lot of easy ways to make money, whether it involves profit boosts or gimme pick'ems. Underdog Playoff Best Ball is also live. So if you want to enter the Gauntlet Tournament, $2 million in prizes up for grabs just for a $25 entry. NFL, college football, college basketball, MMA, NBA, NASCAR, and more. You can now use specials and boosts on our flex entries. And a reminder, you can also use a couple of stuff for the NFL coming up either on Saturday or Sunday. I'm going to go back to Bo Nix, higher 1.5 passing touchdowns, giving it out all week. We'll see how it goes, but the Chiefs are benching everybody. Broncos need to win a playoff spot, and they can't really run the ball. See Bo Nix having at least 2 passing touchdowns in this game. So give me the higher 1.5 passing touchdowns there for Bo Nix for my entry. A reminder, though, when you do sign up for your new account, use the promo code SGPN. Especially when first time deposit offer up to 1K in bonus cash on fantasy promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Guy Podcast. Just finished previewing the Lehechka and Opelka matchup in the final in Brisbane. Time to move on to Hong Kong. So for this one, you have Muller, who's the Cinderella story of the week, against Nishikori, and Nishikori is definitely the feel-good story of the week. I know that Opelka also came back from injury, and you could argue that it's a pretty similar path, but Nishikori was a former top 5 guy, basically. So I think that tennis fans are happy to see Nishikori at this stage in his career, who's been derailed by injury on separate occasions for years. I'm happy to see him performing well, and we'll see how he looks in the final. Now, for the actual prices here, Nishikori is a massive favorite. He's minus 265. Muller is plus 225. For the spread here, minus 3.5 for Nishikori. You have plus 3.5 for Muller. For the over-under, you have 22 games flat. For the set spread, Nishikori in straight sets is even money. You have Muller to win a set at minus 130. Muller to win straight sets is plus 425. For the over 2.5 sets, you have the over being plus 145. Now, for the actual match itself, I think Nishikori is going to win. Now, I know that Muller has been easy to kind of look past because he's not really a great hardcourt player in years past, but he made a deep run here. So maybe he's kind of turned a corner. Then again, every match he's played has been a marathon, so I do wonder about overall stamina because he had to go the distance against Muller, and that was not even just a long match in terms of actual, I'd say, games played. It was just a long match in terms of actual time on court because both guys were, once again, involved in 3 competitive sets. Each set ended up involving at least 10 games. So I think that you're looking at a spot where it could be a potential, I'd say, physical letdown spot for Muller after having that comeback victory against Munar. I think that it was a very good win, but you are looking at him being on the court for a decent amount of time. He was on the court for about 2.5 hours, and that's definitely a lot longer than Nishikori was because Nishikori played half a set. So based on that, I do wonder if Muller will eventually have the tired legs after going to a deciding set in every match here. So that could be a potential concern, but he has been good, and he's been good at dealing with adversity because he has dropped the first set in 7 straight matches, including each of the 4 matches here. So Nishikori has been also involved in a decent amount of marathons, but that matchup against Shang did probably a good job of actually just helping him reset his batteries because he barely had to play in the match on Saturday. But he went to 3 sets against Nori, pretty decisive third set there, 6-2, beat Kashanov in what was a pretty fun matchup there, 7-5 in the final set, and ended up beating Shapo 6-2, 6-3. So the point is he has been playing good tennis. He has gone to a deciding set in 2 of the last 3, but I do think playing half a set should help his overall, I'd say, durability and his fitness for this matchup, which is the main concern for Nishikori. I think we'd all agree if we knew that Nishikori was guaranteed to be 100% healthy, we would all pick him to beat Muller. I think that's a pretty safe statement. So I do like the fact that Nishikori is playing well, and he had basically a bye in the semis, which should help him for his overall stamina in what could be a potential 3-set marathon. But for value, because there was obviously no value on the money line for Nishikori at around minus, basically like in the high minus 200. So I think, once again, if you're looking at a guy at minus 265, I think that there's ways to find value on him to win while not paying that juice. So I don't mind straight sets at even money. I think that he's the better player, and I think that unlike Muller and unlike other guys, you might see Muller struggle to actually break through against Nishikori. Then again, Muller did end up beating some competition that is fine on hard court, as he was able to beat Fees after dropping the first set, but Fees can be a head case. Still a good comeback nonetheless. I think that Kekmanovic is a head case, so that's definitely, I'd say, not a shock that Kekmanovic choked that one, and Husler is kind of a head case too. So I think that the consistency that Nishikori has with the overall, I'd say, baseline game is going to eventually wear Muller down in what could be longer rallies. But I think for value, I don't mind the straight sets of even money, and I don't mind maybe going with the under in games. But I think my favorite play being the actual Nishikori straight set play at even money for value. I don't think it's going to go 3 sets. It might, but I don't see that really being... I put it this way. I think it's more likely that Nishikori wins in 2 than 3, if I had to actually just give my thoughts on the matchup. There is one play that I do like quite a bit from this matchup. I'm going to save that for the lock and dog segment. But that's going to wrap it up, though, for the final previews in Brisbane and in Hong Kong. Now it's time for the lock and dog picks. But for that, though, do want to remind you once again that we are brought to you by MyBookie, because MyBookie has a lot of options for props on every game, and they also have a live dealer casino. They have new early cash out options as well. Head to mybookie.ag, promo code SGPN for 100% deposit match with a 1K bonus cash. And a reminder, you could also get a $10 casino chip. Plus a reminder, use the promo code SGPN at mybookie.ag for that deal. A reminder, we're also brought to you by Rhythm, because Rhythm is the number one AI-powered sportsman platform that provides bettors all the ability to build models in seconds. So if you want to try building betting models, this is a great platform for you. Get predictions on moneyline spreads, holes, and props. And a reminder, you can also build your own model. You could copy over the leaderboard or let Rhythm build one for you in seconds. You can also track props in the Rhythm app. You could use NFL picks, NFL props, college football, college basketball, NBA. Rhythm has it all, and you can track all of the results. Plus, a reminder, try it out for free if you want to actually see what it's about before you pay for it. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgames.com/rhythm, sportsgames.com, RATHMM. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Going Podcast. Just finished previewing the final matches in Brisbane and Hong Kong. Now it's time for the lock and dog picks. For the lock, I am going to go back to the matchup, actually, in Hong Kong between Mueller and Nishikori. For this one, I'm going to go with Nishikori to win the first set and the match at -148. In other words, Nishikori can win the first set, and he could still lose the second. And as long as he wins the match, then he ends up cashing this play for us. Main reason, Nishikori is a better hardcourt player, and he's faced off against better competition. I think beating Shang, yes, there's an asterisk by it, but still, point is he got by Shang, got by Nori, got by Kashanov, got by Shapo. That's a much tougher path than getting by Munar, Thies, Hikmanovic, and Husler. So I think that Nishikori has looked more impressive when you factor in the competition in his event. So I think that he should be a big favorite, and I think that he should get the job done by match's end. Plus, Mueller said before, has gotten to the final by dropping the first set in every match. So I do think that, I don't want to say the first set money line for Nishikori in this bet is a free leg, but I do think when you've lost 7 straight first sets, there is value fading you, trying to get value. But Nishikori, once again, is a -265 favorite that can get him to win, including the first set, at -148. So I'm saving over $1, trying to throw in the first set too, fading a guy that has lost 7 straight first sets. I like the value on that, so I think that once again there's some value for this prop. I'll go with it as my lock. For my dog, I am going to go to the Leheshka and Opelka matchup, and I am going to go with a play that we've done constantly for this event. In Brisbane, I am going to go with the first set tiebreak at even money. Now, BetMGM had even money. I saw -115 on BetRivers. Most books had around -110, -115, but BetMGM did go rogue and did hang in even money. So I'm going to take that for the value. Now, both guys are good servers. Leheshka's underrated at serving. Opelka, we know, is a top 2 server in the entire world. 2 of Opelka's last 3 matches, though, did feature a first set tiebreak. Ironically, the one exception was against Pericard, of all people. But still, point is Opelka has seen a couple of first sets recently that did go the distance, and I think you might see that happening again here in a match between 2 good servers. Plus, 4 of Opelka's last 6 sets in general have gone to a tie break, so he's still going in the distance in a lot of sets. And I think with that being the case, we're looking at what should be a pretty, I'd say, uneventful first set in terms of holding. I think Leheshka will hold. I think that you're looking at Opelka holding too, and I think with a guy like Opelka, once again, who's had the first set tiebreak cash in 2 of the last 3 matches, and he's going to a breaker in 4 of the last 6 sets as a whole. I think even money is a good price, so I'm going to take that before the line moves. So once again, the plays here for the finals in Brisbane and Hong Kong. The lock's going to be on Nishikori to win the first set and the match at -148 on FanDuel. For the dog, I am going to go with Leheshka and Opelka first set tiebreak at even money on BetMGM. That's going to wrap it up for this episode. Reminder back once again for the preview of Adelaide and Auckland in the final tune-up tournaments before the Australian Open. So we're going to cover those tournaments in about a day or two. Until next time, once again, you can find me on Twitter, Reichel Radio. Reminder, don't forget to enter the actual contest that we're having for the Tennis Going Podcast. Leave a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple. Send me a screenshot and you'll be entered into the random drawing for a chance to win an SGPN gift card for free. Reminder, though, once again, don't forget to like, subscribe if you're new on YouTube. And also a reminder to check the merch store for Tennis Going Podcast merch. Till next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.